Weather stream. It's great to see you. Welcome to everyone watching by Facebook Live, all of our YouTube watchers, and of course everyone joining us on our King 5 weather app. That is one of the big major ways to be able to watch us anytime, anywhere. So thank you so much for joining us. We've got a lot to talk about. We're going to talk about some flooding like we haven't seen in years. We're going to let you know what's going on right now. We're going to let you know what's coming. We're going to talk about maybe snow for ski resorts. And if we have any time left over, we may even talk about our chances for a white Christmas. And in between all of it, we're going to offer you some perspective as to what is going on around here the past couple of days. First, though, I want to take a look at some video that came into earlier today. We've got so many rivers flooding, about 30 at the last check. But this is actually from Lewis County. This was earlier today. In fact, as we take a look at the Cowlitz River, a portion of that, 14 people had to be rescued earlier today, and an RV park had to be evacuated. So as you can see, that's more than just water-covered roadways. That is a lot of water, folks. And by the way, this was from yesterday and today's rain. We're calling that round one. The rainfall that's out there right now and what is coming is actually going to bring a lot more water to the mountains and to the lowlands. So we'll take a look at that. You've heard us talk about it all last week and all this weekend. Landslides have also been a concern, and we've had a couple already reported today. This is video sent to us from a hiker. This was actually in between North Bend and Snoqualmie Pass earlier today. Was out with her dog, and wow, where did the road go? It's gone. This wasn't too far away from another landslide that was reported just off I-90. No word if they are connected or not, but already, again, this is just round one, and this is the kind of video we have been seeing. Let's switch over to our graphics here for a moment, because I do want to show you, we've got several things to talk about. We're going to look at this. 28 rivers so far have reached flood warnings. Now, this was as of a couple of hours ago, so it's likely that we are going to be adding some more to this. 14 at least are forecast to hit major flood stage, and honestly, it's probably going to be a lot more than that, with gusty winds and landslides still a concern. 3 rivers have broken records already, and when I was looking at this earlier today, there were so many that were just within spitting distance of being added to this list. So the chances that there will be a lot more is absolutely there. Skagit near Mount Vernon, no big surprise there. Look at the action stage at 23 feet. We are now at 41 feet, and yes, that will be climbing. Also, in Port Angeles, the Elwha at McDonald Bridge, the action stage there at 17 feet, and it is now at 25 feet and rising. And then Cedar at Renton, 17 feet, about 7 feet above action stage. This is a good time to remind you, if you are out there and can safely take pictures to send to us, please do so. You can send them to plewis@king5.com. I would love to use them on air. We would love to use them during our streaming. Just please make sure to include your name and location. A lot of times we get pictures, but we don't know where they're from and we don't know who to credit. So name and location are very important. Okay, joining me now is someone that I have known for years, Ted Beener. I remember meeting you, I don't even remember how many years ago, but you worked for the National Weather Service, and I would come and we would interview you on countless events, and you were just a plethora of information and knowledge. And you still are. You're retired from the Weather Service, but my goodness, you were plugged into so many different communities, and you give forecasts for so many different outlets around here, a lot of sporting events. So I just called you and said, Ted, would you jump on here and help offer some perspective? And as usual, you agreed, and you were kind enough to do that. So thank you so much for joining me on this live stream this evening.
And here I am, ready to go.
Okay, well, let's first start with the flooding that's going on right now. I know this isn't, first of all, it's kind of early on, so it's hard to say where it's going to sit in the record books or the history books, if it will at all. But, you know, you've been here for decades and you forecasted for decades. What is your perspective on kind of what we're seeing now?
Well, this ranks as one of our wettest atmospheric river events for the 21st century. We've had a few others earlier this century that were also quite significant. So you and I were talking off air earlier. We remember December 07. The Willapa Hills, there were some locations up there that got over 20 inches of rain in 24 hours. And that resulted in what the USGS said was a 500-year flood on the Chehalis River, highest by far ever recorded there. And that was when I-5 went underwater for a number of days. That was roughly a $4 million economic impact per day while that freeway was closed. Imagine those dollars today. Another big one was January of '09. Again, another atmospheric river event. You might remember the Howard Hansen Dam started to have some issues in the wake of that flood, but we had water all over the place, very similar to what we're experiencing here so far this week.
So, I mean, when we're talking about, an event like this, and again, we're kind of in the middle of it. Round one came, yesterday and a little bit the day before. Round two just kind of started right now. With the amount of rainfall that the mountains are expecting to receive, which of course feed directly into our rivers and the lowlands, we've already broken 3 records in terms of rivers that are forecasted to hit major or significant flood events, and probably going to see, I would say, at least half a dozen more, if not more than that. I mean, what do you think in terms of the river flooding that we've seen so far and the potential for what is coming here in the next 24 to 48 hours?
In a way, this is somewhat reminiscent of what we had in November of '06. At that point, we had very little, if any, mountain snowpack, and that's kind of where we are at this point. So, and very high snow levels, 6,000, 7,000 feet. So everything up there in the mountain passes, etc., is falling as rain. And with no snowpack there, it literally, once the ground is saturated, it just runs off into rivers and streams. And that's what we're witnessing at this particular point. You mentioned we had a lot of rain for Monday. Today was kind of a brief break while the fire hose, if you want to call it that, went down into southwest Washington and northwest Oregon. But now it's starting to lift northward into western Washington. And we're starting to see quite a bit of rainfall starting to pick up. And we're going to have quite a bit overnight tonight and through tomorrow into tomorrow night. And this time it looks like the fire hose will be over the northern half of western Washington versus the southern half of western Washington, which is why the Cowlitz rose so sharply over the last 24 hours. We're going to see other rivers like the Snoqualmie, the Tolt, the Skykomish, the Stillaguamish, the Skagit, and the Nooksack. They're all going to be coming up. And you mentioned the Elwha. We don't usually talk much about the Olympic Peninsula, but we're going to see some rivers off the Olympics rising pretty sharply as well.
I think it's going to be interesting to tally up all of this and see where we stand as far as in the history books or in the record books when it's all said and done. And only time will tell. Really quickly, want to get your take on, a lot of folks are asking me, and I know they're asking you, skiing and snowboarding, and I love to ski. I have been chomping at the bit along with everybody else to get out to the mountains and calling the ski resorts every other day and saying, okay, what about now? What about now? Are you going to make any snow? Can you make this happen? And a lot of folks, a lot of these ski resorts have to wait on at least some natural snow. And even talking to the folks at Mount Baker last week, they said, look, we need 20 to 40 inches of snow at least. But on top of that, we need to know we have a good forecast moving forward because we get a lot of this snowpack and then the snow level rises, we get some rainfall and it just drains all into the rivers and it's gone. And looking ahead to the forecast, beyond this weekend, even into next week, we're going to be wet. We're going to be warm, and there just isn't a lot of potential for snowpack, at least as of yet. I mean, a lot of folks are disappointed because we're in a La Nina. It's a weak La Nina like last year, but I don't know. What are you thinking in terms of snowpack here for the next couple of weeks?
Great question, and yes, I've been getting pinged by a lot of snow enthusiasts as well. So here's my thought at this point, and again, don't hold me to it, but typical La Ninas, we don't usually see that weather pattern of cooler and wetter conditions kick in until right around the end of the year. So I'm thinking the holidays, maybe into New Year's Day, definitely into January. So that's what I'm hopeful for at this particular point. Knock on wood that we just we make this happen. But that's what I think will happen. Keep in mind, look at the other 2/3 of the country right now. They are in the deep freeze. Fargo, North Dakota, well below zero. They're going to have wind chills of minus 18 in Chicago in just a few more days. So imagine that cold weather pattern starting to shift westward towards us. And that's what I think we may start to see by the time we get into the end of this year. Fingers crossed.
Well, you make a lot of people happy. I know I wish it were a little bit sooner, but I just don't see anything that's going to sustain a lot of these ski resorts to really encourage them to open, at least in the next week or two, but we shall see. Ted Beener, formerly of the National Weather Service, currently forecasting for all sorts of things around here. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us tonight. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, coming up, we're going to take a look at your forecast. We're going to take a look at the rivers that are actively flooding and those that we expect to reach major flooding here in the next day or two. And if we have time, will we have a white Christmas? Why not? We'll take a look at that too. We'll be back in just a few minutes.
New data about safety and effectiveness can come to light. The FDA keeps track of that new data, which can come from patients, drug makers, or healthcare professionals, and may include information about negative reactions to prescriptions. Based on this information, the FDA may recommend that the drug maker update the drug labeling by adding warnings or updated dosage information. Changes could also include the FDA requesting a drug recall. Find the answers at fda.gov/drugs. New data about safety and effectiveness can come to light. The FDA keeps track of that new data, which can come from patients, drug makers, or healthcare professionals, and may include information about negative reactions to prescriptions. Based on this information, the FDA may recommend that the drug maker update the drug labeling by adding warnings or updated dosage information. Changes could also include the FDA requesting a drug recall. Find the answers at fda.gov/drugs.
Welcome back to our stream. All of our Facebook Live viewers, thank you so much for joining us. Thanks for joining us on YouTube and on King 5 Plus. We got a lot to cover here on our first alert weather day. We've still got one today, tonight, and tomorrow as well, as a lot more flooding is expected to head our way. So let's jump into the forecast and get you caught up here. First of all, a flood watch continues to be in effect through Friday. The reason being, I'm not expecting a lot of rain on Thursday or Friday, but of course, once our rivers start to fill their banks, as they have been, and really a lot of them kind of overflowing or spilling over, well, even after the rainfall stops, those riverbeds continue to swell and spill out. It's almost like if you have your bathtub with maybe a slow drain and you've got that water on high. When you turn the water off, the water still takes a while to kind of drain out, and that's what's going to be happening. It'll be draining into our soils, by the way, so our landslide risk is at the highest of the season, and it will continue to be throughout this week. And honestly, probably next week as well. It's just kind of landslide season, unfortunately. So here's some rainfall. Here's a nice view on our satellite and radar. The heaviest amounts of rain continue to find itself mainly on the coast and in the South Sound, but a lot more is coming. We did get a brief break. This system kind of went to Oregon for a little while, paid them a visit, but now it is back. And now that it's back, we're not going to have much of a break or a lull in this system. So some of us will get a little bit of a break, but again, as you can see, in fact, let me back this up just for a second because that kind of flew by. We are still connected to this atmospheric river. You know, back in the day, we used to call this one a Pineapple Express because it's pulling in a lot of its moisture, or it's getting its moisture feed in and around Hawaii. Well, now, because there's been so much research done on atmospheric rivers, and we can now rate them and give you a scale and give you a lot more information than we could just a couple of years ago, these are now becoming kind of their own entity, atmospheric rivers. When we talk about, you know, the rainfall that we've received, we've already had several inches of rain. But just to kind of put this into perspective here, as we go into, well, yesterday's rainfall, Olympia broke a record at over 3 inches of rain. We did about the same in Hoquiam. Tacoma received about 2 inches of rainfall. But as you see, you kind of trail to the north, and it wasn't quite as heavy. When we take a look at today's rain so far, Seattle, now this is not at SeaTac, so this won't go down in the record books necessarily. But Seattle has received 1/3 of an inch of rain. We, of course, are going to add to that. But Olympia, Shelton, Tacoma, picking up on a lot more than that. So where do we stand? Here's the perspective we were talking about. At SeaTac, you know, as of midnight last night, so this does not include any of the rain that fell today, we've got about 2 inches of rainfall. Now keep in mind, we've got a little bit of a rain shadow going on. So Seattle proper, Bellevue, a few of the surrounding communities are getting wet and are getting a lot of rainfall, just not as much as everywhere else. The normal for this month is a little over 5 inches or a little under 6 inches. So we've still got a ways to go, but we're going to make up a lot of that ground over the next couple of days. Olympia, by the way, will likely hit your month's normal this week, and Bellingham, I don't think you will, but you could see that we are getting a ton of rain here in a relatively short amount of time. So that rainfall, we've got spots or isolated areas that is heavy right now, but nothing that is particularly widespread heavy rain. That will change as we go into tomorrow. The atmospheric river, by the way, we're getting so many questions about this. You know, is this a new term? Is it not? Well, it's not necessarily a new term, but it is being utilized more and more because of the research and because of what we know. The atmospheric river, the one that is over us right now, on a scale of 1 to 5, the AR 1 to 5, that of course is atmospheric river, it is a 4, which means it is extremely hazardous. When you get in less, like AR 1 or 2, that's what we want. That brings us a lot of the beneficial rain we get every year. This one is going to bring us more than we need at one time. But the term atmospheric river was used back in the 1990s, but it started being rated, that 1 to 5 scale that I just showed you, in 2019. So when I'm talking about, you know, the AR1, AR2, AR3, the beneficial rain, it typically accounts for 30 to 50% of our rainfall here in the Pacific Northwest. This happens everywhere. I was in the mountains in North Carolina out with the National Weather Service there. They were putting out rain gauges in the Appalachian Mountains because they didn't have any way to really quantify how much rain was falling from some of these atmospheric rivers. So there's still a lot of studies being done, but I'll tell you a new advancement here. Reconnaissance aircrafts, like what you see with hurricane hunters, they have been going out. Yesterday, they went on an 8-hour flight and they were back out there today. This was from yesterday's flight, but they are basically putting dropsondes into this atmospheric river like you would a hurricane, and they are sending out data and getting back data. So now we know for certain that this is a strong AR4 with 10% of the storm measured reached an AR5. So it is not your imagination. This is a particularly strong storm. So how much more rain will fall between now and Thursday morning? Well, across Puget Sound, we're looking at an average of 1 to 3 inches of rainfall. That includes the coast, but it's going to be the mountains that it's going to essentially, you know, rain and then send it right into the Cascade Mountains and the Olympic Mountains. So that's where a lot of that river overflow is going to be coming in. So just know we've got a lot more of that on the way. Let's take a look at the rivers. We'll give you another quick look here at our satellite radar just in case you're just now now joining us. I know a lot of folks want to know what's happening in their community, what can they expect, what's going on. We talked about it at the top of our streaming show here. The landslide danger has gone up. This is one of the things we looked at, and this data right here is a couple hours old, but that slanted line that you see, anything that's above that, any town, any community, is at a very high risk. And all of those shapes that you see, they're all kind of surging toward that line. So when you're looking at, 6 inches, 10 inches deep, that means we are saturated and overly saturated. So landslide risk will be with us for a while. The Cowlitz near Randall, this is where they had to make a lot of water rescues earlier today. It was up a bit this morning at 23 feet. We had that dry time, that lull. It went down to 22 feet. But know that it will be climbing again to likely record levels, 24 feet as we go into Wednesday and into Thursday. The Cowlitz at Packwood is also impressive. It's 11 feet tonight, but that will be climbing to 13 feet as we go into Thursday and Friday. So even on Friday, some of these rivers will continue to flood. Still a little bit of a question mark if that will reach its highest level ever, but you can see we're getting pretty close. This is pretty much a live feed, or as close as we can get to a lot of area rivers, so you're just going to have to kind of lean in and take a look. Skagit near Concrete, by the way. If it's in pink, that is major flooding. If it's in red, that is moderate flooding. So as you can see, all of the rivers listed here are either major or moderate, but wait, there is a lot more. We've got a few more rivers to cover here. Because the dates at the bottom are, December 11th, December 12th, I've kind of gone right next to it and shown you that it's Wednesday, Thursday. I don't know about you, but sometimes I just don't know what day it is. So we've gone in and kind of highlighted that for you. But you can see a lot of the major flooding, a lot of the significant flooding is still to come as we go into Wednesday, Thursday, and potentially even Friday. Still a Squamish, major flooding is expected. The Skycomb near Gold Bar is already had significant flooding and will continue to do that. The Tolt near Carnation will have significant flooding and continues to have significant flooding. So as you can see, those of you that live near a river or have to travel, a lot of these roadways have been closed because they've got water already over them. The fact that we get dark so early now, just after 4 o'clock, it's tough if you have an evening commute, especially if it's already raining and it's hard to see where you're going. Trying to travel on roads that might be covered up like this can be particularly dangerous, which is why we try to give you a heads up as far in advance as we can. So these are just a few more rivers. So coming up in a couple minutes, what about the winds? Because the wind gust, well, they're going to be gusting pretty strong as well. In fact, we are under a wind advisory right now. And with the wind gust expected to be as strong as they are tonight and tomorrow, spotty power outages could be added to our list of concern. We'll take a look at that. And I want to show you what the rest of the week and your weekend entails too. So we'll cover that in your complete forecast when we come back. Stay with us.
New data about safety and effectiveness can come to light. The FDA keeps track of that new data, which can come from patients, drug makers, or healthcare professionals, and may include information about negative reactions to prescriptions. Based on this information, the FDA may recommend that the drug maker update the drug labeling by adding warnings or updated dosage information. Changes could also include the FDA requesting a drug recall. Find the answers at fda.gov/drugs.
Thanks, everyone, for staying with us. Want to make sure now that you have the actual forecast moving forward for tonight, for tomorrow, for the rest of the week, and of course, the all-important weekend. So let's go ahead and take a look at what you can expect. First of all, a wind advisory is in effect for now through 10 o'clock tomorrow. Now, these wind gusts aren't necessarily going to be as strong as they were yesterday, but they will be up to 40 miles per hour. And with ground so saturated, it's not unlikely that a tree gets knocked down or two. So spotty power outages are possible. Once again, this is going to be strongest in the south sound. So some of those wind gusts 40, 44 miles per hour. But the north sound will be impacted as well. A 30-mile-per-hour wind gust is possible in Everett. Here's your rainfall as we go into tonight. Tomorrow morning, it is going to be a wet morning commute for most of us. And some of this is going